Alright, Diablo 4 players, what is the most fun build in Season 8 with the newest updates? I want to say, hands down, the most fun that I had was with the brand new Hail of Verglas unique helmet for the Sorceress. So what you're seeing is the brand new incursion gameplay in the background, and you're going to see things just get absolutely deleted kind of off screen too, because how it works is as long as there is a target that is frozen, we get our shots to just activate automatically, because if you run the enchantment on the ice shards, it just automatically shoots towards him. You can see that it hit for billions of damage. Now, I just want to mention as a heads up, the gameplay that you guys are seeing is PTR, so it could become even better, as I want to say that while it was still capable of doing all content in the game, even the Tormented 4 bosses, with relative ease, it is nowhere near what I would say is the top tier for the Sorc, which is the Evade Teleport build, which I will also link down below. But who knows, maybe that one will get nerfed and this one will receive a lot of buffs. But this, by far, guys, is the most fun, like, new build. Obviously, whatever is the most fun is subjective, but I got asked quite frequently, Sladra, what was the build that you found the most fun? Because sometimes you don't always have to play the S tier build to have fun, right? But anyways, this build is heavily reliant off of this unique. If you do not have this unique, the build won't necessarily perform as well, and it's all basically revolving around kind of a shotgun playstyle. Your ice shards kind of shoot out like a shotgun, and they can actually hit the target multiple times with one shot. So what this brand new helmet does is it gives us a bunch of cold res, but whatever, it doesn't really matter too much. We're really here for the plus ranks of ice shards, the plus percent intelligence. We also get attack speed and a big chunky amount of life, which can actually kind of give us damage as well. It doesn't really matter too much on which GA that you hit, because all of them are good, but you do want your unique helmet to have the power on it to try to roll as high as possible. So how it works is ice shards now spreads with 2 additional shards, so you get more shards that shoot out. You also get a damage multiplier for each time ice shard damages an enemy for 5 seconds, up to 75x. So pretty much you're going to ramp up this damage very, very fast. But let's go ahead and go over the build, but I wanted to start off with the helmet here because in a lot of the builder websites, this item isn't added in yet. You'll see that I have a Harlequin, but it's this helmet. We have this helmet in the gameplay. It's not even perfectly rolled. I just rolled the perfect one so you can see how many ranks you can get to ice shards, which is a crazy amount. But anyways, let's go over the skills and how they're utilized. So there are going to be 2 variants that I will include for you. One is going to be mainly meant for open world content, as we do run the pants, the Ice Heart Breos. These give us a huge bonus to clear speed. So what it does is it says enemies that die while frozen, which is most of the time everything's just going to be frozen with the brand new boss powers as well. We have a chance to unleash a Frost Nova. Frost Nova then freezes things, and then you just can kind of get this awesome domino chain reaction. If you've ever played Path of Exile, think of it kind of like the Herald of Ice Explosion. It's just the most satisfying build that I've played this season for the PTR. It's definitely due to these pants, though, being so awesome. And then, again, everything just kind of freezes. And this is going to be really great for group play, too, especially if you have multiple people playing the same thing, because then everything's going to be frozen. Everything will just start shooting. It's really awesome. But anyways, for starters, as far as our skills go, we run Ice Armor. Ice Armor gives us Unstoppable, basically giving it up 100% uptime with the way that the build is ran, as we will be spending a lot of our resources with the build. And then we play Ice Shards, so this is just kind of active 24/7. We just keep on pushing it when it's up, and then Ice Shards you activate to deal your damage. And then over here, you can play any skill here. It doesn't really matter what skill that you play, but it has to be one fire skill. You have some options. You can either run the Flame Shield if you want to, which is a great option. It doesn't really matter, any sort of fire skill. However, Flame Shield is technically a defensive skill, so there is something on the Paragon board. There's a glyph where we get kind of a less bonus duration on every single time we activate a defensive skill. But it doesn't really matter. If you want to run it, go for it. It genuinely doesn't matter, any fire skill, because we need it to activate Tall Rashas. And then we play Frost Nova. You really don't need to push this button that often, but if you want to push it, hey, it's cool. If you want to drop this completely, that's totally fine as well. But you do want to put points into your Frost Nova inside of the skill tree, because you get a bonus. Because remember, this automatically activates the skill. And then we run Teleport because, well, it's a great mobility skill. And then we run Deep Freeze. There is another multiplier here, but any other cold skills, just try to fill out everything with additional cold skills. And the reason why is because you get more damage on that element, depending on how many skills that you have. And then for the enchantments over here, we run Spark, which will give us a chance to form Crackling Energy. So you can also get crackling energy with your teleport, but this will also be active when you don't have it. It doesn't really matter what this enchant is. Honestly, you can play whatever you want. It just allows for a more smooth progress with the crackling energy, as that is another source of a damage multiplier that gives us the highest one. And you don't need the fire enchant like you used to play in every single season that you used to play Sorc. But the most important enchant is ice shards. So this is how we get our ice shards to shoot out automatically. So ice shards shoots out automatically towards the frozen enemies. So yeah, again, if something's frozen, it just shoots out your shots for free, which is awesome. So for the helmet, again, I know it says Harlequin, but we actually play the Hail of Verglas. Doesn't really matter the GA or the Masterwork. They're all actually really good. Just get a good, unique power stat effect. And then we run Shroud of False Death for our chest piece. And then we run the brand new Fist of Fate. Fist of Fate actually has an update here. So the lucky hit chance to apply random crowd control actually got changed. So it no longer does that, and it applies vulnerability. If you want to get a regular pair of gloves that have ranks to the ice shards, as well as a chance to apply vulnerability, that's great too as well, because this build does rely on lucky hit for a bunch of other bonuses. The resources, you can see our resources never dip down. In fact, if they do dip down, which we will have for like the pushing variant, it's going to go right back up because our shots are basically free. There's no mana problems with this build, which is awesome. And then we run for the speed variant. I like the Ice Heart Braos. Again, the clear speed is phenomenal with this build. And then we run the aspects of Mind's Awakening. So when we cast a Frost skill, it's going to grant us a barrier. And when we cast Pyromancy, it immobilizes a shot because it bursts of movement speed. But the main thing that we're really using it for is granting that barrier. A lot of builds in the future will be running this. It's just because, again, any sort of Frost skill is 6% of your max life. Activating every single time is fantastic. If you want to run something more offensive, hey, by all means go for it, but this makes the build so dang smooth and easy. And because we don't play Harlequin, we need to get armor somewhere. Ideally, we get a GA armor in our boots over here, because our pants and other slots are kind of filled up with uniques. But if you want to swap something in and out, it's not that big of a deal. But you need this helmet, though. The helmet shoots out the shotgun. Otherwise, Ice Shark shoots in a straight line. And it's still good, but like this is kind of what the whole point of playing in Season 8. This is the brand new power here, so you definitely want to take advantage of that. And then we run the aspect of Piercing Cold here. If you want to run a two-handed, that's totally fine. It's not that big of a deal. It's just if you run an offhand, you can get additional lucky hit, but it's kind of up in the air, whatever you want to run. So we run the aspect of Piercing Cold over here, which makes it so ice shards can pierce a bunch of times and you get more damage for it. Ideally, you want to put on the Temper, the chance for ice shards projectiles to cast twice, masterworking that specifically, and then also getting it on the offense vulnerable damage, as that is kind of something you can scale in this build. And then we run the Frozen Memories. So the Avalanche Key passive now applies 2 additional casts, and its damage to vulnerable enemies is increased. So again, another multiplier over there. This is how we have no mana issues. In fact, we don't really spend mana via our skill, but what we do is we spend mana because our boss power will activate for specifically the push build. But you can mix and match. I'll go over them later. And then we also run the Talrashas, just like every single Sorc build, and then the Ring of the Starless Skies to make it even better for the resources, but it's not like it costs resources anyways. But in the earlier stages, if you don't happen to get like your Fist of Fate, don't have a good roll, it can help out a little bit, but it's just to give us those extra cores, because you can hit any GA on it. It's totally great. In fact, you can even get lucky hit. The masterworking doesn't really matter, which is awesome. And then for offhand, I decided to go with Accelerating Aspect. You can also get crit here. There will be one boss power that you can throw in that will give you 70% crit. If that number does change, well, you might need to get crit in a couple other places, but we just want that specific temper to get the weapons on the ice shards projectiles cast twice. Remember, you get to ramp up your damage even faster with this. And I put a couple other notes if you want to run other things, but as far as it goes, this is the most important thing that you just have to be aware of. As far as like the alternate version, I will also link it down below, but I want to go over like kind of the Paragon and everything. There's just a couple different changes here. We swapped some of the boss powers, but specifically like the main changes over here as far as gear goes to bolts to give you even more maximum resource. The main changes here between the like push variant is I like running Neo Thul. So Thul will give us that Frost Nova, which is great, because then you get even more of these Frost Novas that kind of just shoot out everywhere. And because you never take HP damage, you just take barrier damage, and because we're getting so much barrier, you just watch the HP. With the exception of getting like a one-shotted on the boss, which they may adjust, because a lot of people don't like getting one-shotted, but some of the new bosses, I'm gonna be honest, they do one-shot you. Doesn't really matter too much how powerful your build is, you're getting one-shotted. Even if you have crazy amounts of shields, it's just the way that they want the game to go. If things change, I'll update you guys. But as far as it goes, yeah, you pretty much won't be taking damage with the exception of a uber tormented boss, if it does like the mechanic, you gotta dodge it. And then I decided to go with Bach Vex. I just like the extra ranks to everything. It was just kind of satisfying to play. But on the push variant, it's a little bit more strict. Pock Cax is very, very good because it's going to spend all your resources. You're also going to be playing the Gregor one because it's going to activate your boss power the most frequent out of all of them. There's a lot of internal cooldowns on a lot of these, but the Gregor one is the best. Specifically, this spends all of our resources for our boss power over here. And then we run Seer Vex. So I really like Vex in this just because a lot of the ranks to all these other things kind of add up. But honestly, if you want to play something like Ohm, that is another fantastic option just for another damage multiplier. And then we kind of run the generic things over here, and it's like the same. You just want to get your armor capped, which is 1,000, and then you want to run Sapphire for vulnerable, then Int over here. But let's go into the skill tree, and they're pretty much similar, but again, I'll just link them both over here so the video is not super long. So the first 2 points, you just need to put 1 point into Spark so you can get the crackling energy for the enchant. The rest, it doesn't matter. Choose whatever color that you like. And then we run Ice Shards. If you don't want to run the Fist of Fate, run Destructive. It's going to make the enemies vulnerable instantly because you need some source of vulnerability. But the Greater Ice Shards is great because then Ice Shards always receives its bonus against frozen enemies. So what's the bonus over here? Oh, does it have it? Here we have it over here. So the Enhance. So Ice Shards has a 50% chance to ricochet off of another enemy, meaning it bounces off of them, and then Ice Shards always ricochets off of frozen enemies, so then you always get its bonus, which is great. And then we get, of course, Teleport. We want the crackling energy one. If you run the Spark, you may not need to run it, but you can still see, like, sometimes it's hard to upkeep that thing 24/7. That's why I opt to play the other one, which is the Lucky Hit generation. Then we get Glass Cannon, and this is really great here. So you can run Mystical Ice Armor, or you can run Shimmering. Shimmering will give you 100% uptime on specifically your ice armor because you're going to spend all that mana. It's more so for the push version that like really spends the resources. It's up to you. If you want more damage, you can go for this one, but if you want more survivability, you can go for this one. They're both great. And then we run Frost Nova, and over here we gain extra dodge, and on top of that, it's going to restore mana for every enemy hit. So we basically get to restore mana in so many different ways. We can also run Lucky Hit Chance to Restore if you want to run that in the push variant. It's also there. This one also makes them vulnerable, and then also it gives you another damage multiplier. So all these Frost Novas that are shooting out, fantastic stuff. We have increased Lucky Hit Chance. We get extra barriers over here, fantastic stuff indeed. We get all of this like cold damage. This one over here is just damage while healthy. You don't have to, it's not like pyromancy only. We get all of the cold damage bonuses. If you want to put more points in Deep Freeze, it's cool, but it doesn't really matter too much. It's just after you activate this, you get a 25x damage multiplier. And then this one over here, we have Lucky Hit Shock skills, have a chance to actually stun the enemy. It's up to you if you really want to run this. It's just off of Teleport. There's just kind of some extra points that if you want to put in over here, technically you have basically 100% crit in this build. So if you teleport, then you just get some extra movement. This one honestly doesn't really matter, but again, you would get it off of specifically Telly anyways, which can then stun the enemies. Then you get kind of a multiplier here because the teleport actually is pretty crazy for the amount of luck you get. Let's see if it actually shows it here. Oh yeah, see, it's 75%, and this means every single time you Telly into like a pack. If you want to run Rymant, that's another great option. It'll just suck in everything, then it's going to stun him, and it's great. And then I like to run Avalanche. You can also run Shatter, or you can run Enlightenment. I just like Avalanche specifically if you want to do the push variant because things cost 0 mana for the build, because you're going to be getting this lucky chance to make your next cast of your Ice Shards consume no mana, and it deals 60x. But remember that even though it says you consume mana, what's going to consume the mana is the boss powers, which is something I want to go over now. So, moving on to the boss powers. So as far as the boss powers go, we run the Beast in Ice for specifically the speed variant, which is going to make it so after you cast 3 skills which apply crowd control, which, well, it's every skill that we use for damage, it's going to shoot out this thing that just does crazy amounts of cold damage and then also freezes everything, so then you get all these awesome explosions like you just saw over there. Then we can run Incinerate, just gives us extra elemental damage. This gives us 70% crit, which is awesome. And then I really liked running the Lilith's Wind of Hate. So when you hit an elite, you get these little like blood blister cones that really help out specifically against the bosses, and I like this one a lot. I would say the ones that are important, if you want the speed version, Beast and Ice, and then you can also run the Hatred's Embrace. These are like key here. These ones, you know, I'll be honest, you can swap other ones, if you want to run extra like evade cooldowns, getting more teleport, that's cool too. Go for it. It's all up to you. Now, however, for the push variant, I would swap the Beast and Ice for the Dragar. The reason why is you're not going to be affecting the crowd control on the boss, and this is kind of where the build will be a little bit different. Again, I'll include these, but we don't have the access to the boss powers on mobile yet, so I'm using a different website. But yeah, the reason why is after you cast that core skill, it's going to automatically shoot out that lightning. And then what you'd also want to add into the build, if you want to run this, it's fine, or you can run center ads, but you want to run the explosive or Avarice, so when you activate your main boss power, it spends all your resource. This will then activate your rune Cax, which will give you 100x damage, which is fantastic. You really need to try to get this in a lot of Diablo builds, I want to say, from now on. It just helps out so dang much. But yeah, that's as far as like powers go, those are our boss skills. Now, moving on to the Paragon board for the build. They are basically identical. You actually have like some extra points here that like there's really nothing else to push into, but just like most builds, once you're at about 250, you're pretty much done. But for starters, we're running control because we're going to be affecting things by crowd control quite a bit. If you want better boss kills, you can run other things. But this one over here, you get a 20x multiplier on stunned and frozen, which is fantastic. So starter board, control. And then we move into Frigid Fate and Tactician. This is why I didn't play the Flame Shield, but if you want to, it's fine. It just makes it so there's a little bit less duration, which means you have to push that button more frequently. I kind of want to activate it one time. You can see that we're playing it in the gameplay here. You can play Frost Nova. It doesn't really matter. Play whatever you want. Ideally, you would throw in more. You can see right now I have Flame Shield and the Fireball equipped. You only need one of them. I was just showing you guys different examples that you guys can mix and match and play. But anyways, as far as this goes, the reason why you'd want to use Flame Shield is specifically against like the Tormented bosses. It's just good to be immune because that Belial laser can like one-shot pretty much most builds. But this will give us a nice little bonus here once we activate our defensive skill, which is in our case Teleport or the Ice Shield. And then we are going to be moving over to the right side, which is going to be Icefall with Unleash. So after we spend mana, we get extra mana regen here. You can play any other multiplier that you want. It's not super important, but when you are spending all of your mana, at least if you have just a little bit, in case you do not get that activation on the key passive, it just allows you to help out with that, but it's really up to you if you want to play it. The reason why I like this one is because it gives us a bonus to the magic nodes and over here, and then it's like cold damage, and then it's vulnerable, and again, you want to stack vulnerable in this build. And then we can move back over to the left, and we get fundamental release with destruction over here. So when we apply vulnerable, it's going to give us a nice bonus, and remember, the Fist of Fate is just going to basically do it. And then our ultimate skill damage gets increased, but that doesn't really matter too much. So we want to get this bonus with crit because we're going to have 100% crit in this build. And then we also go for Ceaseless Conduit with Exploit. So again, vulnerable is what we're scaling here. And we're going to get this. So this is why we need some source of crackling energy. And honestly, it's kind of cool that we don't have to play the Firebolt enchant anymore because you used to have to play on every single build. So now I feel like everyone's just swapped over, and now we got to play Ceaseless Conduit, so we have to make crackling energy fit into every single build as well. But speaking of the crackling energy, there's a little bit of play here with the skills. Like on my bar here, we could actually drop this skill completely. I've never been a fan of Deep Freeze, but it actually can do some bonuses here. Like its bonus can get increased by your vulnerable damage. There is a cap up to like 200x now in Season 8. But then also the Supreme Deep Freeze gives us another multiplier. So how I use this, I don't sit in it for its full duration. I activate it and I turn it off like immediately. I just want it for the multiplier. You can also play Unstable Currents for the build. And the reason why you would play Unstable Currents is because you are able to gain 25% attack speed. That's literally it. That's the only line that matters, because the other things that shoot out, sure, you can get the bonuses on the stun, but the stun with the teleport is already good enough because it's lucky hit chance. Remember, this is counting without the Fist of Fate, without like Ring of Star Skies and all the bonuses on lucky hit. You pretty much almost always will be stunning the enemies. That's why I really like this over here. And then you get like the bonuses to like the different ones on like control over here, where if it's like stunned or frozen, that way you go in there, everything's considered stunned, so you get the multiplier, then it kind of ramps up really fast and pretty much everything just kind of blows up on the screen. Very satisfying build to play. But anyways, yeah, this is the build. I'll link both of the versions down below. But yeah, that's the Hail of Verglas brand new Sorceress for Season 8. Have some fun with it, and if there's any updates to it, the build, as I do not think this build will get nerfed at all. In fact, my assumption is this build will probably get buffed. There's a lot of people talking about it already in the Diablo community. It is so much much fun though. This is like your fun ticket. If they make this meta, which fingers crossed they do, I told Blizzard that they should be buffing it as a Diablo partner. So hopefully they will buff this, and it'll be the top tier build. And I think that out of all the builds, this is the one that I had the most fun with. It almost kind of reminds me, if you've played Diablo 2, like the boson, like a multi-shot. It's kind of what the feeling play style plays like. But then you have all these things popping, and it's just the whole screen explodes constantly with like these icy explosions, and everything's frozen. So it's like super tanky, and it just deletes everything on the screen. The one area that it does lack, if you want to do pushings, I believe like 70-ish, 70, 80 is where I would say the build kind of falls short. Whereas if you really want to push, check out my evade variant of the fire. It's like fire evade, burn evade. That is currently one of the top tier ones, but who knows? Again, that might get nerfed, but I'll also link that, and that'll be in the link in the bio if you guys want to play like the top tier one. As far as we're aware of, that one is the top tier one, but this one, oh man, it's just so much fun. I mean, just look at the screen, just constantly everything just explodes. It's great. Anyways, take care, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out.